to turn on her mic. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Experience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans, but we're still fixing microphones and chairs because that's what we do instead of playing hockey. No, I'm just kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to us on the WBGR Sports Network, and also you're watching us on Facebook.com/TXHT_hockey, and of course on all of the WBGR platforms as well. And also, I'd like to thank DerpyCon, which is going to be November 17th through 19th at the Hyatt Morristown in Morristown, New Jersey. Come see special guests like David Yost, Walter Jones, Todd Habercorn, and many others. And of course, I'll be up there as well in November. For more information and to purchase tickets, visit derpycon.com. And also, we have a giveaway, and we're going to start right now because they came out with an announcement yesterday. But ladies and gentlemen, we are giving away every week leading up to the October 13th through 15th CSA show. You can win 2 weekend passes. All you have to do is email Donald at blake4av@aol.com for a chance to win those 2 weekend passes to the CSA show. And not only will you get to see the cast members of Mighty Ducks, but now you will also have the opportunity to meet Alex Ovechkin, which is awesome.
And that is only on Sunday the 15th. I'll put that out there to you. I think the cast of the Mighty Ducks are there on the Saturday.
Yes, they are the Saturday.
The Sunday is when Ovi will be there, as well as many other dignitaries across all the landscape of sports. You get to meet all three Super Bowl winning quarterbacks of the Washington Redskins that weekend, along with Jake Taylor from Major League. Tom Berenger's going to be in the house. Sandlot guys, but most importantly, Alex Ovechkin signed, sealed, and delivered for that Sunday. So the thinner, trimmer, leaner, meaner Alex Ovechkin coming to town this Sunday.
And real quick, because we do have a guest, we had 2 Caps PTOs. One was Jyrki Jokipaka, and the other one was just announced this morning before we came on air, Alex Chiasson.
Alex Chiasson, bounced around. The funny thing is both Jokipaka and Chiasson have the dubious task of both being former Senators and former Flames. Chiasson bringing a lot of grit on that right side. He can play up and down the lineup from second line to fourth line, so it's a guy that could fit into one of those bottom 6 roles. There's going to be a lot of guys vying for those spots. Jokipaka brings a little more experience. He's only 26, 27, so I mean, he's still got a little ages on his side. Never hurts to have another veteran guy in the mix. So it's going to be interesting to see how they all mix in, along with all the youth that's coming in training camp wise. But and also a good man to the DC area for over a decade. Brooks Lake is going to get a PTO with the Los Angeles Kings. Congratulations, Brooksy. Hopefully the Kings use you to the best of your abilities, and you are making that opening night roster out in LA. A couple other big ones that came out late this week. P.A. Parento signed PTO with the Detroit Red Wings. Very good, shrewd pickup, and still got a little hockey left in him. And Cody Franson by the Blackhawks. And remember, Michael, with the Hossa long-term injury that will be enabled once the rosters are done and the salary cap is compliant to start the regular season. When they put him on on long-term injury reserve, Cody Franson could probably be signed to a low-level contract and be put in that bottom pair, giving them a little more of a veteran presence in their lineup, being that the window is still there for them to win another Stanley Cup. So, very shrewd move by one of the elite franchises in the National Hockey League, the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yes, definitely. Well, that's our NHL talk for now.
I got one more thing.
What?
I got one more thing, and I apologize to our guests real quick, but 35 years ago today, the Washington Capitals got out of the doldrums of what they were from the time they became a franchise in 1974. 35 years ago today, September 9th, 1982, Rod Langway, Brian Engblom, Doug Jarvis, and Craig Laughlin became Washington Capitals for Ryan Walter and Rick Green, and this franchise got the kick in the pants it needed to become relevant in the National Hockey League. And definitely it's ironic that today is the day for that anniversary. If we have time at the end of the show, maybe go into it a little bit. If not, maybe next week we might squeeze it in around our Western Conference preview. But definitely a monumental, no pun intended, date in Washington Capitals history today.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But that's it for the NHL talk for now, because, ladies and gentlemen, we're finally delivering from the Connecticut Whale and the NWHL Players Association Director. I give you Anya Battaglino. Anya, welcome to the Experience Hockey Talk.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So how are you? Your voice sounds a little hoarse. I think you remember telling me that you actually had were coaching some hockey.
Yep, this morning I was out on the ice with some kiddos, and then I was the keynote speaker at my youth hockey program annual coaching summit.
Very awesome. Now, Bernie, I know you asked it when we had Anya on for the last 5 minutes of the show. Ask it again about Connecticut and Hartford.
Well, first of all, great to have you, Anya. It's definitely good to have you on for the majority of the show today. And I missed by a week. I had my Hartford Whalers shirt on last week. I was looking forward to the history of the Hartford Whalers from the time they came in the NHL from the WHA. And we touched on a little bit when we talked to you for that 5-10 minutes about last month. The effect of in the community, what the Connecticut Whale now and the NWHL, how that effect is, I mean, getting into the community with the history of the Hartford Whalers, almost like maybe something that you guys can build on with that. I mean, could you touch on how the connectivity between the two exists, especially being able to be in the only market of the four that doesn't have a current NHL team but has that history of a previous one?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to watch fans come to the games in Hartford Whalers gear, and that happens more often than not. It was definitely the reception from the state of Connecticut, like, we've needed hockey, thank you for giving it back to us. And we play out of Southern Connecticut, which is probably a 45-minute drive to Hartford downtown, but it was always a fun time to watch people that would make the trek, or we went and signed autographs at a Hartford Whalers game, a Hartford Wolfpack game, and having people come up and be like, those jerseys are awesome. Thank you for bringing hockey back. We love this. It's awesome. So, the state's really leaned in and gotten behind the push here, but getting those Hartford Whalers fans to turn the tide and start being Whale fans and get some of our gear and start supporting the women's game, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been a challenge, but, I think it's something where that hotbed of hockey still exists in Connecticut, and I think we're proving it, and I think the fans are proving it as well.
Right. And real quick, for those who don't know, because there's only been one article in the Washington Post about the National Women's Hockey League. Obviously, the Experience Hockey Talk has been covering the league since day one. Why don't you tell the people how the NHL came about and how you actually got involved in the NWHL?
Yeah, so the NWHL was the brainchild of our commissioner, Danny Ryland. She started the league with 4 teams: New York, Boston, Connecticut, and Buffalo. And formerly I was playing in the Canadian Women's Hockey League, actually doing quite a bit of traveling, and really enjoyed my experience there playing for the Boston Blades. And once the league started, my college teammate and roommate, Kaylee Bracken, was like, hey, I think I'm going to go down and try out for the Connecticut team. What are your thoughts? And I thought, why not? It's a home-based league. Let's get in front of it. Let's try out. Let's see what happens. We show up to the tryouts, and I remember it just felt right. It just felt good. The coaching staff felt right. Players on the ice seemed excited. It was a lot of Quinnipiac girls. We had a lot of old players that I played with in Hockey East. So it was kind of hey, this is happening. Do we get in front of it, or do we wait and see what happens? And I was excited and fortunate that I made the choice to get in front of it, I was offered a practice player spot, which wasn't necessarily paid unless you played in the game. But I picked up, packed my bag, moved from Boston to Connecticut, and I haven't looked back since.
Bernie?
But that's now with the Canadian Hockey League and the NWHL. I know that there's 4 teams, I think, in both. I think there's also correct me if I'm wrong, but also they have I think Canadian Women's Hockey League has an affiliation with the Chinese organization, True, I think, right?
Yeah, there was that announcement that was made last month that Danny Ryland and Haley Moore did, and this involves more of the Olympic players. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yep, so our league has 4 players. Their league formerly had 5 teams. Their league formerly had 5 teams, now has 7 because they have 2 Chinese teams. They're growing. They're using an international approach, and they're growing, which is great. They have a great basis for building. I played in that league, had nothing but great experiences. And, I think the 2 teams have a little bit of a different structure, but just recently the TWHL announced that they're also going to be paying their players. And, I couldn't be more excited to watch women's hockey grow across the whole gamut. They're doing huge things. It's exciting to watch them, and I had great experiences there as well. And, on our end, we're doing quite a bit of things to move the needle on women's hockey and watching them start to pay and watching them expand to China. And, us signing the deal with Twitter, being the second women's league in history to do that. I think it's all, the tide for women's hockey is rising, and I'm so happy that both leagues are doing it, and both leagues are seeing the benefit to it.
Now, with the Olympic players, in the last 2 seasons, you've had players like Megan Duggan, Hillary Knight, Megan Bozak, just to name a few. Obviously, I've been paying attention. I get all the emails saying, I get the Twitter notifications on when new signings happen, and I've noticed that no Olympic players have signed with the NWHL. What is the NWHL going to have to do this season to market themselves without having players like a Hillary Knight or a Megan Bozak or a Megan Duggan in the league this season because of the Olympics?
Well, so now there's 2 schools of thought here, and first I'll just explain the structure, and then I'll move forward with, kind of the thinking on it.
All right.
Is during an Olympic year, both teams, it's called centralization, they pull all of their players that are going to make the team, or at least being pulled into potentially making the team, and they site them in one area, practice every day, play together, play juniors teams, play a series against Canada. They train as a unit. So anyone that had the prospect of making that team is not playing in either the TWHL or the NWHL. They're just playing with their national team. Then, on the flip side of that coin, the players, the hopefuls, the ex-players that were on the national team just received a very, very, very challenging set of news that they weren't going to be a part of the national team for this year, and that they weren't going to move forward within the national organization, which they were planning to do. So what happened was they received an experience and an opportunity to play and develop the Chinese national team for when they play in their hosted Olympics. It's a really cool opportunity. It happens to so be within the TWHL. And the way we looked at it internally, and when we got the news, and when players started having these conversations with us that they were planning on going over and playing in China, it was, is this going to make the sport of women's hockey better and stronger, and is this going to be the right experience for this player? And in every instance, the answer was yes. The sport of hockey is growing. It's getting better. They're growing and developing an entire country's national program, and they're getting some pretty cool life experiences out of it. And that's what hockey at this stage of the game is about. It's not going to be about putting down other leagues or fighting internally for all these different things. Players move back and forth between the leagues every year. It's how do we agree and understand and promote the growth and development of women's hockey. And for us, it was kind of accepting that that was where those players needed to go this year, and that's how the game is going to get better and stronger. So we were proud that they were willing to take that burden and go coach and develop that Chinese national team. We were proud that we raised those leaders. And we're proud that, excuse me, many of our players will be showcased in the Olympics. I think that in all facets, the players that are leaving the NWHL this year are going to do bigger and better things for the sport of women's hockey, and that's something that we can be proud of.
I was going to say, I'll double down on that, Anya, with the fact that you mentioned it right there at the end about how all the ladies that were a part of the NWHL are going to be a part of the Olympics, how great that's going to be as a broad spectrum for the sport of hockey, women's hockey in general, but also the fact that the men's side isn't going to have that NHL presence that it's had in years past. It's going to give the women's hockey, which is a dynamite brand of hockey, people need to give this more of a chance. So those USA-Canada games rival a lot of Stanley Cup playoff games with the intensity and the fervor that it all wraps around, but also the opportunity for the ladies that are in the NWHL this year to get that chance to play minutes that they might not have been getting under some of the established stars that are playing in the Olympics this year. Could you touch on how the opportunity could be for more players to get those bigger minutes to actually develop their game to the next level, to put themselves in a position where maybe down the road, maybe in China 4 years down the road, they're considered for the Olympic team, but also to help, like you said, the growth of the game, both on the women's hockey level as well as a global hockey level in general?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think having those big name players move on and go to the Olympics gives us the opportunity to showcase every single player in our league and create 100 stars as opposed to having 20 stars and having people funnel around them. Which, no discredit to the Olympians. They're amazing, amazing women and people that are empowering the sport and great players nonetheless. But this year what you'll see is players shaking out and getting more free reign. And, you know, a lot of people were like, oh, well, quality. I urge you to watch any Riveters game last year. That team had next to no Olympians, minus Amanda Kessel, but when she was injured, that team was by far giving every team in our league some of the hardest games they've ever played. And it's that level of intensity and willingness to drive themselves forward and propensity to work harder and be better that's going to move the needle on the NWHL this year. We are so locked and loaded to showcase our players in a meaningful way, and our players are getting excited about a season where it's about hockey. It's about the NWHL. And like I said, as much as I love every single Olympian, and I think that they do amazing things for the sport, it's hard to, as a player, keep that level of intensity when, oh, it's the national players are doing this, the national players are doing that. And there becomes a schism where, are they representing the NWHL or are they representing the national team? Or are they representing themselves because they themselves have a brand to uphold? This year you're going to see a lot of NWHL forward-facing player movements, and I think that's huge. I think the players are going to respond well to it. I think the fans are going to respond well to it, and I think that it's going to grow and develop the next generation of women's hockey and girls hockey, and that's why we're here.
All right, and with that, Anya, we're going to go to a quick break real quick. Get yourself some tea. Help your voice out a little bit. So Anya's going to get some tea. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with more women's hockey talk.
Attention hockey fans, the Experience Hockey Talk is on Patreon. Come join the exclusive TXHT community today for access to exclusive episodes, interviews, and so much more. You can join the TXHT Patreon community at patreon.com/TXHT_hockey.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Experience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. And we want to thank the bands Crimson Orchid for their song Human Chess, which is our opening music, and the band I Shine, who Johnny Young Bosch, former Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, is the lead singer of that band. We always want to thank those guys for their music that you listen to here on the show. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by Anya Battaglino from the NWHL. She plays for the Connecticut Whale and is also the Players Association's director. Anya, for you, I have to ask, what's it like being the director of the Players Association, which used to be the position of Erica Lawler, who actually just signed on with the New York Riveters this past week?
Yeah, I'm excited to see Erica join the league again. I think she's a great mouthpiece for the sport of women's hockey. And what happened last year, I got passed the torch midway through the season. And ever since, it's been a little bit of a whirlwind, but it's been extremely, extremely enriching to start working with the players and taking what they need and what they want and their goals and seeing how we can't figure that out. I mean, in the off season, we created so many different changes within the PA. We formalized, we started working with some lawyers, we started creating a strong infrastructure for what our players association should look like. We wrote some bylaws, we laid out a communication strategy with the commissioner that I think is extremely, extremely different, and I'm extremely proud of the hard work. So, it's been a little crazy, but I think what we did was we took the off season to improve, to grow, to do what should have been done, and really, when building a league, so many things have the capability to fall to the back burner. And this season with Haley Moore and Danny Ryland, we said, this is first and foremost, let's sit down, let's put our heads together, let's work on this. And I'm really proud of what the league has done to start honoring their players and working to, kind of start season 3 off with the strongest group they've ever had before. So it's been a crazy summer, but I'm really proud of how everyone's dug in and the amount of commitment that the league front office has shown towards strengthening the Players Association.
It sounds like with the strengthening of the Players Association going within, also you talked about the growth of the game. We touched on it in the last segment about the players playing in the Olympics and given more opportunities. Eventually, the following season, season 4, you're going to have a lot of those Olympic players back in the fold. Is there any talk at possibly, I know you guys do a lot of the neutral site games, like in Pittsburgh, Minnesota, you've been down here, Kettler Iceplex, Philadelphia.
We're talking about trying to get them here at Kettler.
Well, I'm just saying, there's a lot of great practice facilities that are similar to the places you guys play your regular season games that could be possible expansion down the road. There'll be a lot of good markets, especially on the East Coast here, that could really expand the game even more into other areas that could develop that have shown great development with the men's side, being able to get men and women involved in the local leagues around this area, around Pittsburgh, Philly, some of the places that aren't don't have NWHL franchises right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we feel really passionately about, is moving our all-star game around different areas. We have a couple of satellite games this year. Rochester's getting a game. We also have a game happening at the Pittsburgh rink. What we've done is understand that the market is hungry for women's hockey and try not to grow too quickly. We've said, okay, we're going to touch this market with a game or with an all-star game, and our all-star game hasn't yet been announced. I'm extremely excited about that market as well when it does. But what we've done is appreciate that women's hockey is growing and that there are places that need us to come there and that would facilitate a great expansion package. And then it's, well, now that we've done that, what routes have we set? What players or what fans are going to come every game? What potential opportunities do we have to expand into that market? So I think you're dead on. I think the more we can capitalize on some of these beautiful practice venues that have showed extreme growth for hockey, I think those are the places that we need to start hitting on and saying, let's get over there. Let's give them a taste for what the NWHL looks like. And every single time we go somewhere, every single time we get more eyes on the product and the players and getting fans engaging with these players, it's an extreme success. So continuing that success, And understanding the market and understanding where we should grow and develop is hugely important in year 3, and I think it's something you're going to see and something that we're really proud of.
Yeah, I mean, and definitely the growth of women's hockey is always important for me because pretty much my entire life playing hockey, I've always had female teammates. And I remember in high school, I've had one teammate named Anya, and she was really good. She was actually better than me, and I'm not afraid to say when somebody's better than me. And, you know, I just really wish that this league was around then, because she would have had an opportunity to probably still be playing hockey right now as we speak, instead of going the route that she went, which, you know, kind of depressed me. But one thing, and Bernie, you noticed because of the DCHL, a lot of emphasis on women in the league. We have the rule of that 2 women must always be on the court at all times in our league. Okay. We try to make the women seem or be as important as the male players. And we actually have 2 all-female teams in the league. And the reason I bring this up is because, you know, on the 23rd of this month, there is a tournament held by Russian Machine Never Breaks. And this radio show is going to be in that tournament. We actually have a team, and we actually have one. We're going to have 2 female players. We have 1 open slot. Hey, Anya, would you like to play for us on the 23rd?
Yeah. I got to get over there first.
You know, Connecticut to Maryland ain't that bad, you know.
Michael, fund your travel.
I will fund your travel by paying your $10 fee into the tournament.
There you go.
But seriously though, like, Suds does deserve a lot of credit for trying to build up the women's game, at least here in our area. And, you know, I've said it before, I'd love to see the NWHL come to Kettler. I think Kettler would be a perfect place to do it, especially the fact that when you have somebody on CSN by the name of Courtney Lachlan, who's the daughter of Craig Lachlan, you know, she could be like a really good catalyst in this area for the NWHL and for women's hockey as a whole.
Right.
What is your thoughts on, you know, like us, DC area, we have Courtney Lachlan. There's other areas that have women who play hockey, but they aren't playing hockey. They're more broadcasting it now. Using them as outlets to really help promote this league, to help it grow.
I think that the more people that lean in for the sport, the better. And we find, like you said, women not getting the opportunity to continue the game and having to find different ways to fit it into their lives. And those are the people that reach out. Those are the people that say, hey, what you're doing is great. I wish this was around when I was available or when I was in the game. What can we do to help? And, you know, we say it all the time, women need to help women. And that's something that the hockey community has done really well, where women have leaned in and they said, hey, this is what I can do. This is the resources I have. So the more we have those connections, and the more that we have the understanding of who's willing to lean in and get in front of it, I mean, that's where we thrive. A rising tide raises all ships. I said this kind of when talking about the CWHL. We all need to lean in and help the sport of women's hockey because it's not a loss leader. It's not something that people can throw away and be like, it's just a women's game. It's something that could change the lives of many. And I think that the more that we access markets where we have a champion, you know, I think that that's going to be really powerful for us.
Yeah, definitely the power of the game growing is definitely paramount. I also want to touch on the relationship with the NWHL and the NHL. I would think that any help the NHL with their mass marketing would be able to help the NWHL as it keeps growing and growing and growing, especially touching on with the Olympics being not having that NHL presence that it's had in years past, being able to help the NWHL like the NBA did with the WNBA for so many years now. Could you touch on that possibly coming? I know they came out the Declaration of Principles this past week, growing the game off the ice with more of it, even more of an integratable quality that the NHL players and the NWHL players exemplify on and off the ice. Could you see more of a relationship growing with the NWHL and the NHL along with the CWHL to be able to, like you said, grow the game in not just the markets that are established, but also the markets that you can establish to make the game even greater than it already is?
Yeah, I think that a great representation of this would be the Pittsburgh Penguins organization. Now, we played an all-star game there, and they had their official marketing, their Twitter, everything leaning in and speaking out for the sport of women's hockey. We had Bucci Gross doing quite a bit, actually this offseason, tweeting about our signing. I mean, he's not affiliated with the NHL, but nonetheless, some of those big names are starting to pick it up. And I think a lot of that comes from getting that NHL support. When we get non-monetary resources from our NHL affiliates and partners, it's wildly successful to prove the concept of women's hockey. Now, the Buffalo Beauts had received support from the Sabres when they won the Cup. I know that the Bruins have done quite a bit with Dana Lang and the Boston Pride. And, even speaking to the New Jersey Devils, they've really leaned in for the Riveters because they practice out of their practice rink. So it's things like that where we feel like we're getting that credibility, we're getting some support there, but it's limited. We're getting some of those non-monetary Twitter resources, which is hugely important. We're hugely appreciative. But like you said with the WNBA, if the NHL was to step forward and even support both leagues, the CWHL and the NWHL, and to be non-discriminatory and say, as a collective unit, we're supporting women's hockey. I think that all across the world, the sport would grow, it would change. You'd find better resources for our women. Our players would have more availability to train and practice at different times. There are days where I'll wake up at 5, go to work all day, and be on the ice until midnight. It's a crazy, crazy day. And that's exactly what the original 6 did when they were starting the league. So it's not that we don't understand the value of hard work, and it's not that we don't love what we're doing, but it's also, if we have that additional support from the NHL, we would be breaking through every glass ceiling in a way that was huge. And now we're doing it in other monumental ways on both sides of the fence, but it's what more could we be doing? How much more could we be getting? How much better could the experience be for our fans? How much more accessible could the games be? There's a lot there that really would lend to some support from the NHL. So, we look to them to step up, and I think the Declaration of Principles is a great way to level the playing field and say, hey, every single professional organization believes in these core values. And I think the more that we, like you said, personify those core values, the more we prove value to those, to the NHL and to providing that message. So it's been there, but it needs to be more. And, we're going to keep doing it whether we get it or not, but it would be hugely, hugely helpful.
Absolutely. I definitely think, quick follow-up on it. You mentioned the Devils with the Riveters and the Boston teams and the Buffalo teams all coming together. Have the New York Rangers, who are the parent club to the Hartford Wolfpack, have they been able to help out? And we touched on earlier in the show about the Connecticut Whale not having the NHL team right there in Connecticut, but having New York, the Rangers being that parent club to the AHL team that's located in Hartford and being closer to the Rangers than actually the Hartford team. Is there been any type of connection there with the Ranger organization at all?
It's funny because the Rangers also give some credibility to the New York Riveters, because we've mapped those two organizations closely together. We more would mimic what a Hartford Whalers organization would be. It's a little bit of a catch-22 there. We're getting support from the Rangers. When we do, it's for the Riveters, which is great. And we have, Rangers talk shows and a couple of their promotional TV shows and things like that, giving us some airtime, but most times it's with the Riveters, so it's great. But Connecticut kind of falls into that awkward market where we're building our fan base organically and don't really have that NHL affiliate yet, or figured out a way to link the correct affiliates to the organization.
It's kind of like a, hey, we like you, but you're going to be the redhead stepchild of this league.
You look like the Whalers still.
Hey, just keep that.
It's funny the way it's happened, but when we moved the Riveters to New Jersey, that's when the Devils really started leaning in. And they had already tried to foster some relationships there with the Rangers. So it's right now we're navigating it, but I think that getting the Connecticut Whale to be the home team for the Pittsburgh Penguins game is extremely important. We're the home team when we go over to the Lemieux Center, and I think that having the Pittsburgh Penguins plugging the Connecticut Whale, although the markets are a little bit different, doesn't necessarily build the butts in seats type conversation. It's still a great way to follow and a great organization to help speak out for the growth of women's hockey.
Now, let's talk a little bit about television, though. All games are broadcasted live on YouTube on the NWHL channel. But in the first year, you had a contract with Nesson for the Pride games, and then for the playoffs, I believe, was ESPN3. And then last season for the playoffs, you were streaming live on ABC News. This past summer, it was announced that there will be a feature game of the week shown on Twitter. What's it like knowing that you've had the opportunity to be on ESPN3, Nesson, and then ABC News, and now having this with Twitter? And what would you ideally like to see for future, like, maybe TV deal-wise for the NWHL?
Yep. I think it's humbling, to say the least. And the sport of women's hockey is proving time and time again. People will troll our tweets and say, who cares about women's hockey? I think every time we sign one of those deals, we're proving that quite a bit of people do care. And, having the gold medal game in the Olympics last Olympic game be the most watched event in hockey, I think is extremely important. And I think it proves that aspect that the women's game is growing and changing, and people love to see it, and it's hugely important to have somebody watch the game because it makes a fan out of it. You never watch an NWHL game and go, that sucks. You watch that game and you go, oh my gosh, that is an unreal hockey game. So I think the more eyes we get on the product, the better. But having organizations like ABC News and Nesson and ESPN3 and now Twitter step forward and say, hey, we're going to feature you, we're going to play your game, that's inspiring. And I think that if I were to look forward to the future and what I would hope to see, I think that this Twitter deal is going to be one of the biggest things that's ever happened in the sport of women's hockey, because the world is changing. The amount of time we spend sitting on a couch watching a TV is decreasing. We hear it every day that we want to be on the go, we want to be mobile, we want to be on our feet, we want to change the way we experience different things, whether it's TV or movies or sports. And having Twitter lean forward and say, we're going to broadcast one of your games, I think that's the future of women's hockey. I think making it accessible, I think obviously it needs to be on market TV, and that would be important as well, but having the Twitter deal and watching how Twitter has embraced the WNBA, I'm inspired to say that we now stand amongst that group of pioneers and women changing women's roles. So, the gratitude that we all have towards Twitter is unbelievable. It's my favorite favorite social media platform to connect with my fans. But now watching the fans be able to connect with our games through Twitter is what I think the future of women's hockey is going to be. Okay.
Now, I'm bringing this up real quick. I actually do VDMS, which is Verizon Digital Media Services, and my job is to actually publish live, insert commercial breaks, and then finalize and verify replays for ESPN3 events. So I would really like to see you guys come back to ESPN3 so I can work some NWHL games. I'm just throwing that out there. So because that would be great, because ESPN, obviously, they claim to be the world's leader in sports, except they don't really cover hockey, so kind of hypocritical there a little bit, but it would be really great to get them on a big or see you back on a big platform like ESPN along with the Twitter as well.
I also think, Anya, and going on to that TV realm of things, with the 4 teams local, and also like we talked about expansion maybe to DC, to Pittsburgh, the local TV outlets, the Yes Network in New York, the Nesson Network in Massachusetts. If you got to Pittsburgh, you'd be able to tap into Root Sports, and of course down here in Washington, Philly, you have the Comcast family, which is ironically tied in with the NBC Sports Network family.
And
I think they are changing the name to
it's
NBC,
now NBC
Sports
Washington.
Washington.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then not only that, but if you come to DC, you also have Monumental Sports and Entertainment with the Monumental Network as well.
Yeah, but you also have all those platforms in place that it could build the thing. I mean, you see what the women's soccer, professional women's soccer league right now has a game of the week on Lifetime. I could see. I mean, could you see down the road where the NWHL could maybe be featured on like a weekly game on the NHL network? Would be I know a big step, but maybe a Saturday afternoon game when there's no afternoon hockey or something like that. Maybe, but also tapping into those local networks like like Nesson's had games before, being able to build the game that way where you'd be able to have locally produced games. Eventually, maybe one of the national, like the NBC Sports Network or the NHL Network, or something like that, could tap into one of those games from the local networks, like they do with the NHL games sometimes.
Yeah, I think you're dead on. I think that's a market that we have tapped into, and I think that growing grassroots is hard in some ways. That we get stuck, with limited resources or without the capability to broadcast that many different outputs on the system that we have. But that would be a huge step forward, and it's definitely something that we're willing to look forward to in the future. And I know with the growth, more and more people will have eyes on it, and it will be picked up. For example, News 12 Connecticut ran a story about us in our inaugural season. They reached back out. We got involved with them, and just watching the local markets pick up our stories and start talking about them on the news. Hey, this is what happened in the sports world, and then hearing our league get plugged, that's exactly what you're talking about. That growth internally, and then eventually networks, and I think those TV deals are going to come. But getting the eyes on the sport through our streaming platform, like we did with ESPN3, like we're doing with Twitter, I think that's going to be the caveat there.
All right. One thing I would say is looking to go 90, because I do know that the National Women's Soccer League does almost all their games, plus the Professional Rugby League, which there's only one North American team, and they're in Toronto. They do all their games through Go 90. So that would probably be a potential good route for the NWHL as well. But real quick, we're going to go to one more break, and when we come back, we will continue our discussion on how we can grow women's hockey, not just here in the United States, but globally as well.
Attention hockey fans, the Experience Hockey Talk is on Patreon. Come join the exclusive TXHT community today for access to exclusive episodes, interviews, and so much more. You can join the TXHT Patreon community at patreon.com/TXHT_hockey.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Experience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, all you have to do is you can email Donald at blake4av@aol.com for a chance to win 2 weekend passes to this October CSA show featuring Brandon Quinton Adams, who played Jesse Hall, Matt Daugherty, who played Les Averman, and Vincent LaRusso, who played Adam Banks in the Mighty Ducks movies, and of course now the recently announced Alex Ovechkin. So that's blake4av@aol.com for a chance to win 2 weekend passes to the CSA show on October 13th through October 15th in Chantilly, Virginia. And we are joined by Anya Battaglino from the Connecticut Whale. And Anya, one question I have to ask is, how do you balance being the Players Association director and being a player yourself in the league? Like, how do you do that balance?
Sometimes I do it better than others, I will admit. And then sometimes it's harder than I think. But I think the biggest thing that I have to take into account when I'm trying to be level-headed and be equal and be non-biased is the hard work that I'm doing is going to eventually make the sport better as a whole. So what I'm trying to do is navigate between being a hot-headed player at times and having the capability to, kind of go off about something and saying, okay, I got to put this hat on and that hat on. And that's something I've really tried to, adopt over the summer is when am I speaking as a player and when am I speaking as a Players Association rep and when am I speaking as the head of that organization and things to that nature. So I like to take that dual approach where I'll say, as a player, this is my response. But as a director, this is my response. And those don't agree, but I'm sure I sound like a schizophrenic most of the time. Or, that I'm arguing with myself, excuse me. But
it's okay, we all do
having
it.
that conversation and saying, this is my bias, but this is what the right answer is. And trying to take in the advice and understanding of the rest of the PA is how I try to navigate that, speaking for the collective whole as opposed to just myself.
Well, hopefully the hot-headedness doesn't get you in trouble with the NWHL's Department of Player Safety's equivalent to George Peros and get you in trouble that way while having to make sure that everything with the players as a whole is taken care of as well. But
well, first off, Anya's a hockey player. She probably knows how to drop the gloves, She knows how to do that dance in rodeo.
Oh, boy.
Never.
Anya sounds like she knows when to flip the switch, but also when not to flip the switch. So we'll give her the benefit of the doubt on that one. But with the being the player representative and with not going into any specifics with contracts and everything to that aspect and all, but with WNBA, they have the outlet on the WNBA's off season to go overseas and play in another league and make. It's actually more. I think there's more of a salary that they can get. You mentioned earlier in the show that you guys pretty much are full-time jobs on top of practice, on top of playing in games, travel, all that stuff. The balance that you have to have, not just with the additional responsibilities that you have. Specifically, Anya, give the fan base here just a taste of what the salary with salary structure entailing, how you have to balance everything to be able to be optimal on the ice, but also be able to make sure that you aren't taken away from what you have to do away from the ice.
Yeah, and I think it's an important question. Currently, our pay structure is broken up, just as an overview, by your attendance in terms of practices and games. So in years past, it's been a salary. And, we would issue fines and we would go through, these processes where we would say, hey, you did this, or this is what your cap was, and this, that, and the next thing. So what we've done now is structured into 3 pay gates. They're just, for lack of a better term, there's high, mid, to low. And then each one of those pay gates has the same cost associated with going on the ice for practice, which I think is extremely important. And then it's unique on what you get paid for the game. So obviously a low player makes less than a high player or a mid player, and they break down differently there. But what we've done is we've equalized practice. We said this is important, and this is where everyone is equal, regardless of ability and skill, and practice is where we lean in and we grow and we change and we fight for the betterment of the sport. And so I think that first and foremost, in terms of the pay structure and work and how I balance my life, work comes first. And sadly, that's the world I live in, is that if I have something for work, I'm going to miss hockey. I'm going to go to the gym and crush myself because of it, but I have to put my job first. And then how do I put on the hockey hat and get to practice and make that an extremely important line item for me, that I'm lifting during lunch at work and then getting on the ice for practice so that I can make it to everything. That's kind of a little bit of a breakdown. We haven't yet gotten to a livable wage, and so that's hard, but with that comes a lot of free time in the day, whether you're coaching or you're doing skill development work, or I know some of our players are trainers and teachers, and I'm in sales, and there's a myriad of different jobs that we do, but there are a lot of them that help us benefit what we're doing out there on the ice. So our trainers are able to get out in the gym and work harder and use both their professional life and their professional hockey life to bridge that gap. So the pay structure changed a bit from the salary cap and issuing fines, and now it's lending more towards the players and creating that equality there. And I think that that's important to start off year 3, is setting a level playing field and having the league grow organically and having the players feel that equal level of commitment, as opposed to, oh, I'm the lowest salary cap, I'm going to skip practice to get a fine issued. This is equally important. I get paid the same amount as, the best player on the team or the mid player on the team. It's I think, a good step in the right direction.
One question I have to ask, and it's going to lead into a second question, is in the past 2 seasons, in regards to pay, is that also the players got a percentage of their jersey sales. Is that something that will continue this season? And then leading into my second question, are you changing the jerseys for the 3rd year in a row?
Well, I can't reveal trade secrets, so I can't let you know about the jerseys. But what I can speak to is kind of something we talked about in the original questioning with the Olympians, is that we're in the business of creating all-stars and creating the next wave of women's hockey. This year, obviously, with none of those big names, different names emerge. Different jerseys are being sold at a higher rate. Different people's jerseys are flying off the shelves, and we will absolutely continue to support our players and give them that stipend for their issued apparel. Anything that says your name on it, whether it's a jersey or a jersey or anything to that effect, is being paid out to the players to the same percentage rate. Something that we fought really hard for, and we deserve, because these players are the reason that apparel is coming off the shelves, and the league knows that, and they're committed to continuing to honor that payout structure, and also continuing, if you've seen, I don't know if you guys seem like you guys are following it, but every other week you have the league plugging jersey sales, you have the league plugging supporting their players, and they could be plugging unbranded shirts if they wanted to, but the league is leaning in and saying these players deserve more, they deserve to be all-stars, they deserve to be treated as such, and they deserve to get paid, so that they're doing a lot to help the players make up a more of a salary cap there.
All right, Bernie, I'll let you ask the last question before we go into a few other things before we sign off.
Well, first of all, Anya, definitely it's been a pleasure having you on for the whole hour this week, and definitely getting a lot more of the basis on what the NWHL is looking for, short-term as well as long-term. And it sounds like with the Olympians going to the Olympics, it's going to be easier to be able to get that new wage structure in place to, like you said, create the new stars. And with creating new stars, you create new opportunities, and we touched base on expansion on it. But also down the level, with college hockey is concerned, you saw a lot of, and with the NWHL draft, you saw a lot of collegiate players getting drafted as well as being signed as undrafted free agents. Can you see the development going once you get the NWHL really rock and roll, and seeing with what the CCHA and some of the major college hockey league, ice hockey organizations on the men's side are doing, trying to expand to other colleges and universities to bump it up from just club level teams but to university teams. Can you see a similar expansion with the women's game is concerned, being that how you continually grow your game as such?
Yeah. Last year we saw a couple colleges put on their rosters, their game issued rosters, drafted by X team. And I think that is extremely humbling for the league, that these college organizations are going to start plugging the fact that their players are drafted. But I also think it's going to help the growth and development of the college game. I mean, I know for a fact I'm a former BU player, good friends with Maddie Elia. She's signed for the Buffalo Beauts. We talked about it. She was drafted by the Beauts. After the season, she was like, after the BU season, she goes, you know what, I think I'm done. And midway through the summer, she changed her mind. She said, I can't get rid of it. I can't shake this hockey thing. I love it, and I need to be playing. I'll be in Buffalo, and I'm going to sign with the Beauts. And I think that change of tide for a friend of mine to go through the thought process of, you know what, I'm done with hockey, and then have that breath of fresh air where it's like, wait, this is real. The feeling of losing the thing that I've loved the most my entire life is real. I can't let that happen to myself. And that's just one example of what the league is hoping to do for the sport of women's hockey is educate college players. Okay, you weren't drafted. So your senior year, you need to blow it out of the water so that you're ready to get picked up as an unsigned free agent. And watching colleges change and adapt to that and start plugging their drafted players and watching different markets emerge and different players come out of different areas, it just lends to more colleges picking up the game or even having more fans come in and say, hey, maybe I don't live near an NWHL franchise, but I live near this college and they have 2 drafted players, so I'm going to start going to those games. That drives revenue for their tickets. That drives revenue for their team. Maybe they buy a hot dog. That drives revenue for their, the rink costs. It's everything that we're doing to promote the growth and development and how people are going to embrace it. And I think that is the perfect culmination to the question that you asked, is what do I hope is going to trickle down to college, is I hope to see that exact situation happen. Somebody that loves the league, live in Minnesota, and go to a Gophers game and start cheering for our drafted pick, or maybe the undrafted pick saying, oh, X player should have gotten drafted, that was such a bad idea, or start getting obsessed with the draft and start getting obsessed with these college players and watching their stats and getting behind them. I mean, it's great. The whole thing is going to be unreal. And this year the draft was massive. And watching every single college team tweet about their drafted players was a humbling experience. And I was so proud of the league. I was so proud of all the draftees. So it was a great year this year, and it's just going to continue to grow.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, Anya, thank you so much. Don't hang up right away. We'll talk in post real quick. But in the meantime, get some tea for your throat, young lady. I need to do a quick rundown on a few things coming up for TXHT.
Thank you, Anya.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Outside of what we're not doing on the show, but as extra specials for the show, next Saturday, 2 p.m. on September 16th, we will be doing a Facebook Live fantasy hockey draft. We have 8 teams. We have Team TXHT, which I'm the captain of. We have the Ballard Club, which is Dixon's team. Team Glorious, which is my friend Sean Fates. Our good friend Shaggy, Christopher Vasilis, he's doing the Bullet Club, Russell's Evolution from Full Tilt New York Rangers.
That's the favorite.
Marco, Team Destino. He's a good friend of mine from the convention circuit. Brendan Schuck, our resident Canadians fan, has a team. And Michael from Nova Caps has a team. So we're going to be doing a fantasy hockey draft next Saturday at 2 p.m. And then, ladies and gentlemen, on September 23rd, we are actually going to go from fantasy to the actual thing, the Russian Machine Never Breaks hockey tournament, floor hockey tournament, which will be done in Rockville, Maryland. All team TXHT games will be broadcasted on Facebook Live. And that is Saturday, September 23rd, between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. I will be captaining the team. Our goalie will be Roderick Cruz. Our one confirmed female player is Megan Noyes. And our confirmed roster for now, we have 2 open slots for the male as well. We have Scott Fairchild, my former friend, or not my former friend, but my former teammate.
You're recruiting enemies now?
Recruiting enemies.
I think Megan needs to bring the noise on that enemy of yours.
But no. Scott, former teammate of mine. Great to be actually able to play with Scott again on the same team. Chris Vasilis, our boy Shaggy, is going to be on the team, along with his friend Alex Darwin. Derek O'Halloran, who ironically I'm playing against tomorrow in my game.
So he's your enemy there.
Yeah, he's my enemy tomorrow.
Shaggy's everywhere.
And then we also have Megan's husband, Patrick, playing on the team. We have 2 open slots for men, 1 open slot for female. That tournament will be on September 23rd. And of course, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember that you can still win 2 weekend passes to the CSA show on October 13th to 15th. Just email Donald at blake4av@aol.com for a chance to win those 2 weekend passes. You had Alex Ovechkin, Adam Banks, Les Averman, Jesse Hall, so many more. And, of course, we also would like to thank DerpyCon, which is November 17th through 19th at the Hyatt Morristown in Morristown, New Jersey. Come see special guests like David Yost, Walter Jones, Todd Habercorn. I'll be there, and many more. And to purchase tickets and for more information, go to derpycon.com. Bernie, you want to say something?
2 quick things. Thank you, as always, Lionel Green, WBGR Network, giving us the platform. And also, our hearts and prayers are with everyone down in Florida with Irma coming down. Please bunker up, be safe. This is going to be a massive storm, and we hope that everyone gets through okay. All our listeners down in Florida, we're praying for you. All our friends and family and acquaintances, we are praying for you. And Godspeed, my friends.
Oh, and Mike, don't forget your hockey tape.
Oh, we got to go to Total Hockey for hockey tape? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I got to go to Total Hockey because I need to retape my hockey stick. So until next time, we will see you on the ice.
Attention hockey fans looking for serious hockey product.